Hi there everyone, Lars back with the long-awaited look at Beauty and the Beast and why this story is not about Stockholm Syndrome. This analysis right here will be one of my crowning achievements for this month, as I've been looking at toxic relationships in all various kinds of forms. I've looked into how a toxic relationship can be used well to get a very strong point across by having a look at Dr. Flug and Miss Heed in the show Villainous. We've had a look at how a wholesome relationship has fallen into toxicity by looking over at murder drones, and now it's time to have a look at a relationship that's ultimately wholesome but has been labeled as toxic because of the elements within the story that people just for whatever reason haven't been able to get over, or because it's actually low-hanging fruit and makes the story a really excellent punching bag. And that's one of the things that we've learned throughout history is that if you have an excellent masterpiece of art and storytelling, of course people are going to take every potshot they can against it because it just makes them feel better. But here, in this video, I want to address directly why Beauty and the Beast is not a Stockholm Syndrome story. Now, much to my surprise, I found out that film therapy, or I should say cinema therapy, had already done an excellent breakdown of this argument, and I'll just quickly play their little comment right here.
Let's talk about what Stockholm Syndrome is, because first of all, Stockholm Syndrome is not a mental disorder, it's not an emotional disorder, it's not in the DSM-5.
Right.
It is more of a pop culture thing, but even then, people misunderstand what it is. Stockholm Syndrome, people assume it's you're held captive and you fall in love with your captor. And that's not what it is, and that's not what happens here. So is it Stockholm Syndrome? According to that definition, it is not. And so she didn't fall in love with him as his captor.
Right.
Right? So it's not Stockholm Syndrome, or not according to that definition.
Now, I already know that some people are going to be like, wait, Lars, but they did say that is Stockholm Syndrome because Belle came to respect Beast, who was her captor. And that's what happened in the actual Stockholm situation with the whole bank robbery. And they themselves said it. And yes, I understand that is coming from an accredited therapist and a storyteller by his side. However, I'm going to say that this still isn't actual Stockholm Syndrome, and it comes down to the story itself. They were really focused on how the relationship between Beast and Belle formed and how it culminated and everything, as well as some of the deeper aspects of character building, of relationship building, and of how art is displayed, because Beauty and the Beast is just absolutely a gorgeous movie and holds up so well. This right here, this shouldn't have remained the pinnacle of animation. We should have gone beyond this, but this is still just such a gorgeous movie right here. But in any case, coming back to it, let's break this down. Important story beat for important story beat to show that ultimately this even goes against your actual typical Stockholm Syndrome, where a character becomes enamored with, falls in love with, or at least comes to respect a captor because of how the captor treats the captive. Well, let's have a look at what's happening right here, actually, within Beauty and the Beast. Let's see where cinema therapy missed the mark. The first important thing that we need to make mention of is how Belle becomes Beast's prisoner. This right here is very important because just at its face value, we have a prisoner exchange going on, Belle becomes Beast's prisoner, and boom, you have your whole Stockholm Syndrome setup. There's more to it, though, than just that. I'm going to provide a little bit of historical context to help solidify my point right here. Within old-timey France, within Renaissance, early modern, medieval France, and within the surrounding world of medieval, early modern period Europe and the Middle East and North Africa, you have the practice of hostage taking. This isn't just simply coming guns blazing, burning, raping, pillaging your way on through and taking some important hostages. Oh no, this is actually a form of barter, a form of treaty making where you offer up someone who is important to seal a deal. Belle is offering herself up for her father's life and freedom, effectively offering herself up as a hostage. The offering up of a hostage in order to seal a deal was in many ways considered almost sacred at the time. Beast should he take this offer to bring in Belle as his hostage, means that for the rest of his life he cannot do a single thing that would in any sort of way harm her father. Yeah, he treats him really gruffly as he sends him back to the village, but Beast is honor bound from this time henceforth to make sure that her father is taken care of. Later on in the movie, when he makes the choice to let Belle go, yes, he does it out of love, but he also has a sacred obligation to do so because his promise is that as long as he holds Belle safe, that her father remains safe. And Maurice knows this. This is why he does not want to let Belle take his place, because as far as the transferal of hostages goes, this treaty, this agreement between them, Belle must remain his hostage for as long as possible until Maurice can offer up something better. And Beast gives a very important stipulation here in their treaty. You must promise to stay here forever. This is ironclad. And Beast does not expect her to take it, because who would offer themselves up as a hostage to this monstrous beast for an old man, even if it is their beloved father, because for the rest of their lives they must remain a hostage, a prisoner at the mercy of this cruel lord. Belle takes that offer because she loves her father so much. She is willing to do something so brave, so selfless. This isn't any sort of mere hostage taking. Beast didn't go on in, break into a bank, or break into the village and take Belle prisoner. This is the exchange of hostages. This is important, and Beast recognizes it, and her courage really has an impact on him. Her compassion, her love, and not just in the moment where he realizes that she's willing to take his place, but later on also when he's speaking with the palace staff and they're like, don't you realize that this could be the one who breaks the spell? And he's like, I know, I haven't thought about it. I know I need to fall in love with someone. And yet as he's looking at this, he's like, this woman is so incredible. She's so brave. She's so beautiful. She's so just everything. A horrible person like me does not deserve her in the slightest. And that attitude immediately bears out with how he reacts when Belle turns down his offer to come to dinner. And the thing is this, as a hostage, she should be at his absolute beck and call, and she is resisting. Belle has a firm hold of herself. She has an iron will, and she is going to be defiant. Sure, she made this treaty, but she didn't agree to just simply be a regular servant at Beast's beck and call. No, she agreed to exchange places. And so she is resisting Beast in any way that she can. And that is ticking him off. And the way that he reacts, obviously, clearly, does not endear him in any kind of way to her. This already shakes things up a little bit right here, because Stockholm Syndrome would suggest that the captor is already treating the captive with honor, with respect, with dignity, with compassion. Beast doesn't show any of that. This is very clearly a political move, an economic move on Belle's part, right? On Belle's part, and this is a treaty that even though she has made with Beast, she is actively resisting. This comes up even more when she goes out on her own, has dinner without Beast against his express command, and then goes to the West Wing and very nearly starts plucking the petals off of his beautiful magical rose, which of course really ticks him off. She has not only been obstinate to him in front of his staff, not only is she going against his desire and clearly not playing the part of a good hostage as he had hoped, not only is she resisting him, not only is there no way that they could ever fall in love, at this point she has broken his express commands and is so close to dooming him to be a beast forever through her own curiosity and carelessness. And the way that she responds, she leaves. She breaks the sacred treaty and rushes on off. And Beast is left absolutely distraught in her wake. And right here, again, people are like, oh, Stockholm Syndrome, because he goes on after he's already fallen in love. Remember this right here. He has a sacred duty to protect her. He's promised Maurice. He's already made that exchange. She belongs to him. He is duty-bound and honor-bound to go on after her, which shows that at the very least, this guy has a conscience. Beast does have a heart. He does have a desire to change, to be reformed, to become a better man. That is buried deep down below all of his anger and sorrow. And the call to duty, what he must do, and to protect this girl who has so foolishly gone out into a blizzard, that is in all cases the right thing. Beast is just effectively doing what he is honor-bound to do and what his conscience tells him is the right thing to do. This is not him being in love with Belle or even hoping that Belle is going to reciprocate any sort of feelings. All of that's gone out the window. The reason why he's so distraught right there is because he knows that his shot with her is gone. It's destroyed. It's not coming back as far as he knows. And so after he saves her, not only from the blizzard, but from the wolves, from Beast's perspective, he gets an absolutely raw deal where now he's got to be back in his palace, he's been injured, and the girl who's been disrespecting him, breaking the hostage agreement, and all of this stuff, who's gone against his will, who nearly doomed him for all eternity, is now taking care of him, as though nothing bad happened. Of course, the tension is high, because he is ready to snap at her, which he does, and of course she has all of her own vinegar and venom to hurl right back at him, and rightfully so. They are both in the wrong and both in the right at the exact same time, which is why you have this excellent back and forth between them, which is totally lost in the live action remake, which does not have anywhere near as good acting or feeling or emotion as what we get in this back and forth conversation right here, where Beast is like, look, I am injured because of you. And she's like, hey, I only left because you frightened me. Well, you shouldn't have been in the West Wing. Well, you should learn to control your temper. Both have kind of been put into their place, and ultimately Beast realizes, we are in this situation because of me. None of this would happen if I had not been cursed because I'm such a horrible person. Fine, I get it. Let me eat my humility pie. Go ahead, dab at my wound. And that is then where, as Mrs. Potts sings, someone bent unexpectedly. Belle, realizing that Beast could have easily have just let her go on out there, could have let her die at any point, could have rightfully have strangled her. She broke all of his rules. She broke the hostage agreement. She is in the wrong here, and yet he has backed off. Doing so shows to her he has a conscience to him. There is possibly a sliver of a better man, or at least of a better monster, somewhere within that gruffness. And so she is willing to thank him for saving her life. And doing so, he responds with, you're welcome, and is kind of surprised. And being surprised that way begins changing things, because he's like, wow, this isn't just some beautiful, courageous young woman who has stomped all over my pride and fed me my humility pie. Maybe Beast is a little bit into that. But Beast finally, for himself, realizes that there is a better woman somewhere within Belle. That she's not just some annoying, beautiful hostage that he took on and that he's obligated to take care of. No, there is a better woman there. He wants to get to know her better. He wants to show his gratitude. And as such, he gifts her an entire library. And the way that she reacts so positively gets him excited, because holy cow, there's this amazing person right here who's now actually responding positively to me. If I just keep on acting nice, maybe there could be something right there. And from that point on, Beast begins acting more romantically because he's becoming infatuated with her. He's hoping he can make her fall in love, and he's the first one to fall in love within this relationship. So again, it's not Stockholm Syndrome because the captive has not fallen for the captor. The captor's fallen for the captive in this particular situation. And we see that play out with the whole ball and everything, how he's talking about how he's going to confess his love for Belle. And Belle's just having a good time with her good old friend Beast. Yeah, rough time there, buddy. You've just been consigned to the friend circle. But as far as the story then progresses, Beast has completely fallen for Belle and ultimately shows again his true love for her by letting her leave. True, he is honor bound to make sure that Maurice is protected, but by letting Belle go, he is showing that he is willing to let go of all of these things for her to be happy. Honor, expectations, treaties, all of that be darned. Your happiness and how I feel for you is more important, Belle, so I will let you go. And that is where we get that beautiful scene of when Lumiere's like, why would you... Well, not Lumiere, but when Cogsworth is like, why would you let her go? Beast is like, because I love her. Now, what about Belle? What about this girl who, I should point out right here, because this is an interesting thing to consider when it comes to character arcs and what we expect from our main protagonist. Belle as a character hardly changes at all. She is a strong-willed, very well-principled, beautiful, smart girl who is fearless against all the odds. That's what she is at the beginning of the movie. And that's what she is at the end of the movie. What actually changes for Belle? Ultimately, the only things that really change for her is that she's willing to give up her prejudice towards Beast, and she falls in love. There's really not much of a real big character arc for her. She is one of those protagonists who instead change everyone else around them by the sheer virtue that they hold. And those kind of protagonists are hard to pull off. And it's amazing that Belle as a character really works well in this way because we kind of expect her to change, but no, she's the force of change for everyone else. And so really the big thing for her is again setting aside that prejudice towards Beast, which she's already done halfway through the movie, but then towards the end actually falling in love with him. And it's not because she's some demented furry. It's like, oh, I really needed that Beast. No, it's not any of that. She already begins falling for him almost immediately after leaving the palace because she begins to realize, wait a second. He didn't have to let me go. He did this because he realized how much my father means to me. And very clearly, his happiness, his entire doom is all predicated on whether or not someone's going to fall in love with him. And that's actually kind of unclear how much she knows about that, but let's say that she does know at this point. And so this is a big sacrifice on Beast's part. And it begins to occur to her that he's truly changed. She likes this change. And being back home, even though it means being back with her father, she's gone back to that provincial life that she wanted to escape. The fantasy, the joy, the adventure, the companionship that Beast gave to her is now missing. Everything that she wanted in her own Prince Charming is gone. And sure, yeah, he's a monster, but everything else about him is just so good, so human, that when given the choice between Gaston or the Beast, she chooses Beast. Even though, sure, Gaston's all like, oh, I want you to choose me or we're going to imprison your father. And ultimately, she makes it the choice between Gaston and Beast by using the magic mirror to show everyone that her father is not lying about the Beast in order to try to prevent her father from being taken to the loony bin, which at that time would have been basically a death sentence back in those days. And so now it becomes a choice. Beast or Gaston. And she very clearly has already chosen Beast because he's her friend. He's a good guy. And again, in this absence of having him at all, it becomes very clear what kind of hell her life has quickly become because she's not back at the castle with Beast. So when they finally break out with Chip helping them out and she goes on back and realizes that Beast and Gaston are fighting, she immediately goes to rescue Beast because she does love him. And in that chase to go and save him, it's at that moment that she realizes, I have fallen for you. You're not just a friend. In the absence of you being here, ever since I left, things haven't been good. Yeah, sure, I saved my dad, but it's not right. It's not right without you. And so when he's stabbed and he's on the verge of death, that's why she says, you can't leave me. I love you. And that, boom, that is what's been required, and the spell is then broken. And she hasn't fallen in love with the beast, she fell in love with the man who he always was, which is why when she then sees Prince Adam then standing right in front of her, sure, she's taken aback and is a little bit shocked, but it is him. She can see it in his eyes, into the windows of his soul. This is the man that she ultimately fell for. And it's even better now because she doesn't have to worry about all the weird furry nonsense.
We have a lot of costumers out here with big fluffy costumes that'll keep people warm, so at this point, we're not at all worried.
Stupid.
So when we look at it right here, is this a case of Stockholm Syndrome? Again, even according to cinema therapy, we're like, yeah, technically this is, if we're talking about learning respect for the people who have taken you captive. Yeah, sure, you can bend it that way, but when we actually break the story down beat for beat, especially the more romantic parts, the things that are supposed to lead us to Belle and Beast getting together at the end, becomes very clear this isn't Stockholm Syndrome. This is instead a romantic story of opposites attracting enemies to lovers and ultimately finding fulfillment in your soulmate who you didn't suspect was there, which is even told to us in the opening musical number of the movie, where here it is that she meets Prince Charming, but doesn't notice that it's him till chapter 3, until the third act of the movie does Belle realize that this was her Prince Charming all along, the man that she has slowly been falling for, the man who already fell for her first. So when it's right there in the open that this isn't Stockholm Syndrome, why do people keep coming back to it? Well, it's not just because low-hanging fruits and people like to down punch on masterpieces because it makes them feel better. No, it's because there are some very toxic elements, some very spooky elements within this movie. I grew up watching Beauty and the Beast. It was one of my older sister's favorite movies, and I always watched it with her, and I was always scared as a little kid of the Beast. It was very well animated, very well voice acted, very well done with the music. It conveyed the horror, and that this was a guy that you shouldn't like. And so if it's conveyed so clearly, even to your child mind, and that's even to your adult mind, this is a guy that you shouldn't like, when Belle then falls in love with him, we immediately are like, that's not okay, that's toxic, that's awful, yeah, it must be Stockholm Syndrome, that's the only thing that would explain this right here, and he took her prisoner, such a despicable thing to do. But again, when we break it down, that's really not what's going on right here. This is based off of an old French fairy tale. Fairy tales are not the nice, pretty things that Disney movies make them out to be. There's blood, there's horror, there's awful characters and horrible things that happen to the protagonists, but all in the adventure of leading towards happily ever after. The Disney creators for this movie changed things up, even so much so that most people have actually forgotten the more horrific aspects of the original story of Beauty and the Beast, and now we only really think about the Disney version, which really prettied things up and made them a whole lot better, a whole lot less dark than they actually originally were. But again, because there are those toxic elements to Beast and to Belle, and to their relationship at the very beginning, people find it very hard to reconcile the change, especially because it seems like everything suddenly turns on a dime with just 2 scenes, boom, they already start falling for each other. But again, it comes down to really understanding what's happening here in these different scenes. What's led up to this? What's the execution? And what happens afterwards to these characters? That really shows us the trajectory of their romance. And again, Beast fell for Belle first. So to wrap up, what can we actually learn from this debate and from this movie. Here's what I myself have learned as I've been writing some of my stories. You may have an idea to introduce kind of this toxic relationship or this really horrible character who you're hoping will win the heart of the other main character and win the hearts of your audience, but there is a certain line in the sand. Once you go over that line with your characters or with your story or with your story's themes, it becomes so much harder to win your audience over to liking your characters or to liking your setup. The good thing is that Beast proves himself to be a good man at the end of the day, and that's made very, very clear. And so we're okay with Beast as an individual, but the whole kidnapping and hostage taking is just so against the norm, so violent even, that it seems really hard to reconcile that with the good man that he is. And so as such, we've tried to justify that by labeling it Stockholm Syndrome and just going on our day laughing awkwardly about it and then going on to the next story, or then just talking about the beautiful animation and the gorgeous songs and focusing more on the inanimate objects that are actually the servants of the palace. As an author, what you need to do is this. You need to take stock of what kinds of themes you want to entertain within your stories. If you want to write something dark, how dark are you going to go? How far are you going to push the boundaries? And what you need to do is you need to get feedback. You need to get feedback from beta readers, from your writing group, from your editor, from someone to let you know if you've potentially gone too far. And what I'll let you guys know is that currently I'm writing my own take on Beauty and the Beast, something that I am hoping to share with editors and with publishers and hopefully get picked up. And yeah, I know this goes against conventional wisdom to let people know, hey, this is the book I'm writing, because for whatever reason, the moment then that any publisher gets wind of me saying this, they might be all like, no, you broke some unspoken rule. You're not allowed to now publish your book under our publishing name. Well, all of that aside, as I've been working on my take for Beauty and the Beast, I wanted to go dark. I wanted to make sure that whatever story I wrote would shatter the idea of Stockholm Syndrome by taking the characters in a slightly different direction, taking them even darker and deeper than they were in the original fairy tale. But some of the scenes that I wrote crossed that unspoken line of going a little too far, and thankfully getting feedback from other people within Camille's Harem and from other readers let me know, Lars, you went a little too far with this character. Lars, you went too far with this scene. You need to reel it back, because otherwise it's going to be very, very hard to win any of us over to liking the Beast character, or to liking the situation that you have created. But ultimately, as Beauty and the Beast has shown us, it's very possible to take a toxic situation, a toxic relationship, and make it wholesome. It's very possible to do, and it can be done beautifully, it can be done exquisitely well. However, the darker you go, the more work you have to do to make it right. And that's ultimately, I think, one of the biggest takeaways that we can get from looking at Beauty and the Beast right here. So I want to hear now your guys' thoughts. I've pontificated long enough about the subject right here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And have I disproven the whole claim that this is all about Stockholm Syndrome? I believe I have, but if I've missed something, let me know. I would really be interested in hearing your takes. In the meantime, if you want to judge my own writing abilities, my own prowess as an author, then please check out the books that I have published. Links for them are in the description below. If you want to have a look at how I've written romance, then please definitely check out my romantic comedy, Notice Me, Send Pie. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this short story. It is fantastic in my opinion, and I want to hear your opinion on it. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us on this incredible adventure that we call writing, even if it does take us to dark, foreboding castles. And until the next video, y'all, tschüss.